Hey everybody, it's Javad. It's the middle of February. Valentine's Day is tomorrow. If you want to conform to this commercial holiday, be sure to do something for your loved one. But hey, I was doing a veneer, in the middle of a veneer project, and I wanted to do something cool where I have the speaker enclosure like this, and I'll tell you guys more about this project. But I have these 1.25 inch radiuses, so the speaker's on its side currently. And I want to wrap a veneer this way. And I've done veneering a lot in the past, and I've bent veneers where the bend is parallel to the grain, and that like kind of like this. And you can bend a veneer really tight. I mean, you could probably do half-inch radius if you want to, no problem. But I did a lot of research online trying to figure out what do people do? How do you bend a veneer that direction? What's the minimum radius? And I didn't find much. Maybe you guys, I'm pretty good at Google searching, and I didn't find much. So maybe it's out there. But I figured out a good technique, and I was talking to my friend Scott Hinson, and he mentioned using this technique. And I've used this technique where you iron on the PVA glue and use an iron and you put the glue on. And I've used that on flat surfaces, but I just wasn't sure how that would work on a curved surface. Scott said he had done it. And so I did some experimenting, and sure enough, it works great. So I want to at least put this out there on the internet for anyone else like me who's asking this question. And also, it's a great speaker building tip. I think this would apply to a lot of speaker projects. So, so here are some previous examples, test pieces I've done. This is these are both paper backed. This is a mahogany veneer, and this is a quarter sawn oak veneer that I used on the Helios CM project. And you can see these are great. I mean, this is on there. It's like permanently bonded. So here's what you do. You take some PVA glue, like Type Bond 2, original Type Bond, Elmer's, any yellow wood glue, I'm sure works, any PVA yellow wood glue. And so you apply it in a generous layer on the veneer as well as the substrate. In this case, this is a 2x4 that I applied the 1.25 inch radius to. This is the router bit that I used in my router table. And so you do a nice coat on both surfaces, and you let it dry. It will work if the glue's wet, but I don't think it works as well because essentially what happens is the glue melts, and then when you apply the heat, and then it bonds, and then it's permanent. So when it's wet, when you're heating it up, you're also kind of drying the glue, and the bond isn't as quick. It doesn't grab as securely. So I would definitely recommend letting it dry. So this has been on there for about a half an hour, and it's totally dry to the touch. Okay, and this is a $13 Black & Decker iron that I bought at Target today. I was using the one in my house, but I didn't want to get in trouble. So you want to set it on a pretty hot setting. So I think I have it on like wool blend, but medium to high setting. It'll work with either. So here we go. I'm just going to demonstrate this for you guys. So again, I am bending with the grain. So I'm going this way, which is not as bendy. So, all right, now you can use a cloth if you want, but I haven't found that that's necessary. I think if you're careful with your iron, you can go right on the veneer. The problem is when you use a cloth, it's kind of, this is a small piece, but if you're doing a whole speaker, it's a pain in the butt to see what's going on underneath. And especially when you're doing this curve like this, it's really important to see exactly, where you're at. So I don't know if you can't probably see it, but around the edges, I can see the glue is melted. So it's hot, but you can see this is on there now, and it's still hot. So as it cools down, it will continue to bond. So we got the flat part is on, okay? So now we're like this, and we're just gonna start working the iron on here and slowly start working it down. Doesn't take a lot of heat. It works really nice and quickly. So I'm just working the edge, going back and forth, and slowly working my way down over the bend. You want to make sure you don't leave any gaps or you don't go ahead too far. But you can already see it's working. Now again, this is a 1.25 inch radius. I think this would work down to a 1 inch radius fine. I'd be skeptical at going much tighter than that. Maybe 3/4 inch with the right type of veneer. But at some point you risk splitting the grain and splintering it. So you can see I'm now way down on the end. Boom. I mean, it's a great technique, guys. I read a lot online about using veneer softeners and that this wasn't possible. And there's some old school guys that actually heat the veneers in these forms. And there's people saying that you can't do this with paper backed. So it works. And again, it's on there. I mean, you can kind of see the glue is melted, and once this cools down, it's a permanent bond. So anyways, imagine that look, you know, wrapped vertical up and around in one piece, and then you do a seam on the bottom. So you overlap the veneer, you take a straight edge and you cut it through both pieces. Then you remove the scrap from underneath and on top, and you have a perfectly budding veneer seam on the bottom of the speaker. You wouldn't see it. Of course, this technique would work for furniture or anything else too. So again, this is a quarter sawn oak veneer. So this is, you know, not the friendliest veneer to work. I kind of picked the worst case scenario. I think with something like a maple or a birch veneer, any real straight grained, without a lot of figure, it's going to work great. So anyways, thanks guys. Hope that's a helpful tip for you. And if you end up doing this, I'd love to see what you do with it. Thanks guys.